Babysitting. There were 3 families I babysat for regularly, but this night I was going to a new family. The Mackenzies lived on Laburnum Avenue, right above the golf course, looking over Powell River Company log pond, which is enclosed by the hulks. These old cement ships are chained together, anchored in place, and contain the logs until they are used to make lumber or ground into chips to make pulp. The sun was just setting as I arrived, but it was still light enough to see the tug towing a barge of hog fuel into the mill. The last rays of the sun cast a glow on Forbidden Plateau over on Vancouver Island. Wow, I wish our house had this view. Mrs. Mackenzie said the kids, who were 2 and 4 years old, were sound asleep and rarely woke up until morning. She said there was a plate of cookies on the kitchen table and milk in the cooler. They would be home by 10 o'clock. Good. I should be able to get my homework done. I took my books over to the couch, snuggled up against the cushions, and opened my science textbook. We had to read chapter 5. I was concentrating deeply on the reading so I could answer the questions we had to complete at the end of the chapter. Unexpectedly, a strong beam of light shone through the window and moved from one side of the room to the other. My hands went to my throat, my heart was pounding, and I couldn't keep my arms from shaking. Rushing to the kitchen where I couldn't be seen, I peeked out from behind the door and saw the light beam move slowly back across the room. The door, I thought. I've got to lock the door. I took short, silent breaths, straining to hear any footsteps as I crept down the hallway to the door. I stared at the doorknob, willing it not to move. Would he, whoever was out there, turn the knob before I was able to turn the key? I made a lunge for the key and turned it. I was safe. Going back through the hall to the kitchen, I collapsed on a chair. I wasn't going to sit in the front room, but I would have to get my books. First, I would have to think about it. Oh no, the back door. How could I have forgotten that? I rushed and locked it. Again, I plopped down on the chair, but immediately I froze in terror. What if he had come in the back door while I was locking the front door, and he's in the house right now? What was I going to do? I moved my chair against the wall so he couldn't sneak up behind me. My neck was tense and aching from the strain of listening for a sound of anyone in the house. Should I phone Dad and ask him what to do? When I looked at the phone, it reminded me of the movie I'd seen recently when the bad guy cut the telephone wires so those inside couldn't phone for help. I was almost too scared to pick up the receiver, but I did and heard the wonderful sound of the dial tone. I hadn't detected any sound in the house, so decided to peek around the door into the front room. I looked all around the room. No one was there. I was just about to grab my books when the light shone in again, searching the room. My heart was pounding even louder, and I quickly retreated to the kitchen chair. Scary thoughts were bombarding my brain, and I couldn't think. Smarten up, I ordered myself. I sat up straight and made myself breathe slowly, in and out, in and out, in and out. Okay, now, relax. I willed myself to go limp as I rolled my head around in circles. Then I stopped in mid-cycle. I realized that he was outside. He was still shining the light, but he wasn't inside, and the doors were locked, and the phone was working. I was safe. I felt brave enough now to get my books from the front room. Back in the haven of the kitchen, I found my place in the textbook and resumed reading. At the end of a paragraph, I didn't remember a word I'd read, so started again. The clock on the wall ticked out the seconds like a nagging metronome. What time was it anyway? Oh no, still 25 minutes before they get home. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, now start again and concentrate. At last there was a knock on the door. They were home. Mrs. Mackenzie asked if the children slept through and if everything was all right. So I told them I was scared when someone shone a light in the window. Oh, I'm so sorry, Beverly, Mr. Mackenzie said, slapping his forehead. We're just so used to it, I didn't think to mention it to you. That's the spotlight on the boom boats, sorting the logs on the night shift.